Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Executive Director podcast. My name is Becky Caldwell, and I'm your host. I'm an executive coach for mission-driven leaders, and I serve as the actual executive director of the Virginia Highlands Festival in Abingdon, Virginia. Well, here we are, still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot is still uncertain. Which is pretty frustrating, I'm sure, for a lot of us. I know it is for me. There's uncertainty around next steps, around what is possible, what is permissible based on our governments, and even if we can do all the things we want to do, will our public want to engage with it? All great questions, many of them not answerable right now. And those of us in leadership positions are feeling that squeeze between the people who we lead and the people who we serve, all wanting to know what we're going to do. Well, I have somebody on the podcast this week to help us handle that personally. To help us get comfortable with not knowing what's coming up in the future, and to effectively deal with the stress we may be feeling, the sadness, the mood swings, the feelings, all the feelings we're feeling the moment we feel those feelings. And that person is David Razowsky. David is someone who I know from my days producing improv festivals in Chicago and Atlanta. And he's a former Second City Chicago performer. He was the artistic director of Second City Hollywood for about 10 years. And now he teaches and coaches and trains and performs all over the world. And he still does do all of these things all over the world through the magic of Zoom. David is someone who you may remember I referenced a few episodes ago in my interview with Kim Farris-Luke when we were talking about this global grieving process that we're going through. And I mentioned to her, feel the feelings you're feeling the moment you feel the feelings. And that led me to look up David's TED Talk from a few years ago. And in that TED Talk, he also mentions this idea of not knowing until we need to know. And it's, I will know what I need to know, when I need to know, what I need to know. And for some of us, we take great comfort in that. And for others, it's a struggle. But either way, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this conversation with David Razowsky. On with the show. I have been so looking forward to this conversation, Dave. You have no idea.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's nice to be a guest on one of these instead of a host on one of these.
Right. Yeah. Your podcast has been going on for how long? 5, 20,
something
years?
Something like that. I put a pin in it a couple of years ago. I've done some episodes, but I just haven't produced them because I'm writing a book, and it's been consuming my entire life over the past couple of years. So I miss it, but as you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the things that I really enjoy. I enjoy publicizing it. I enjoy hearing from people. I enjoy. I do enjoy the process. I think I really enjoy the process, but it's a lot of work. And now I think everything's changed. And my topics would be different now than they were during my last podcast interview that I had just a couple of months ago.
Yeah. So what would your topics be now?
Pretty much what we're talking about, what you want to talk about. How are you How are you using what it is? How are you using who it is that you are in order to make your life, in order to be present with your life right now? I know my girlfriend is an Alexander Technique teacher. She's an opera singer. She's a singing coach. She's a singer. And the question that she has, and so many people have, is like, who am I? And, and it's who am I? And it's who am I? Who am I? And how do I keep doing what I'm doing? Or how do I reinvent myself without grieving too much? Because really what's happening is this is really an amazing grief process that we're having, that we're going through. And it's a communal grief. It's very interesting. It's a communal grief. And it's odd to me because a lot of people are, as we saw in Michigan, instead of people going inside with their grief, they're taking it out, and they're not dealing with it. And it's really Kubler-Ross's, it's so firmly in Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of death. Is that what it is?
Yeah, or the 7 stages of grief or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. But clearly, I'm just realizing it just through our conversation that it is about the 7 stage, going through the 7 stages of death, and it's denial, and it's going to be an acceptance, and hopefully no one will die.
Wouldn't that be nice? A little too late for that.
What I mean is hopefully no one will be shot, because it looked really violent yesterday.
You brought me great comfort with recalling like workshops and just being in your presence at festivals. And then I had this conversation a few weeks ago with a friend of mine who happens to run a funeral service. And we were talking about that global grieving process. And I recalled your saying very often, feel the feelings you're feeling when you feel your feelings, which led me to go back and find your TEDx talk about, I will know what I need to know when I need to know what I need to know, which I have said. Yeah, I mean, you can tell like it rolls off my tongue very easily right now. And I love what you just said too about figuring out who we are now. If we are, this podcast is for purpose-driven leaders. So leaders of nonprofits, leaders of social enterprise businesses, like B Corps, like anyone who is purpose-driven in their work. And what happens when we can't, for no fault of our own, fulfill our purpose? Who the fuck are we now? What am I supposed to do with myself? If I am a festival producer who can't produce a festival, who am I? What good am I? Like, we go through all of these horrible, like, not horrible, I don't want to put a value judgment on a thought, but painful thoughts about like, who am I now? What good am I to anybody if I can't do what I thought I was put on this earth to do?
Right.
Whew, that was a heavy thing.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
There wasn't a question in that. That was more.
There was not yet, but I mean, well, let's just open it up. Like, I mean, I'm already recording, and with the magic of editing, should I, choose to avail myself of it?
Let me edit this out while I lift up my tripod here.
Okay.
I bought a tripod to hold my laptop on.
Oh, nice.
And I can't recommend it enough, because with teaching, you want to go, we're over here, we're doing this thing, because I think most of the work that people are doing now, and this has a little to do with it too. So you are recording, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so I just lifted up the tripod in order for us to be, for me to be able to talk to you like this, like I'm looking at you and I'm standing up. I think that's an evolution. I'm watching people, and I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm teaching an improv class, and I'm looking at a screen. And that's not how I teach an improv class. So what can I do that has a little bit of a connection to what my life was like before we were sequestered? And what I could do is, how do I free myself? What's the one thing, and I know, first up, I want to say this, anything that you're feeling right now, you get to feel it. And not only do you get to feel it, but you get to feel it without any judgment or without any regret. The feeling that you're feeling right now, you one of the things that I talk about when I talk about improv classes is when you weren't airdropped into your life. The decisions that you made are based upon things that you've done in the past, and that's how we got here. And because those things because all of our decisions are predicated on the decisions prior to those decisions, what you're choosing to do now, or what you're deciding, the emotion that you're living in right now, is predicated on those emotions too. So you're not just coming out of it going, I can't believe that I'm thinking this right now. Believe that you're thinking it, believe that you're feeling it, and leave yourself alone. Leave yourself alone. Deal with yourself with humor and compassion. Learn to laugh at yourself. Also know that it's not about the big picture. It's about this. I remember, do you know Michael Gelman, the teacher Michael Gelman?
Yeah.
Director Michael Gelman. He's a mentor of mine. And I was teaching for Artistic New Direction, a really great group in New York that is just all about helping artists discover who it is that they are. And we were up in the Catskills teaching, and it was Gary Austin, Michael Gelman, Scotty Watson, and I, four directors, and we were each directing a small group. And my group, I'd work with the group that day, and that night we'd have a show for everybody. And that show was to be a representation of everything that we did during the day. Right? So my group gets up and they don't do a thing that we worked on. They do nothing. They don't do a thing. And I'm pacing back and forth going, what the hell? Why did I even do this? And I look at Michael Gelman, and he's sitting there. And then Gelman's group goes up and they do exactly the same thing. They don't work on anything that Gelman had been doing. Right. And afterwards I said to Michael, and this comes into not needing to look at the big picture. I said, Michael, how can you sit there and laugh knowing full well that your students didn't do what you wanted them to do? And this is what he said. He took his arm in an arc and he went, this is the student's learning curve. And he did in an arc, this is the student's learning curve. And then he did this. This is the student's learning curve. This is what I'm responsible for. So he's not responsible for the big picture. He's responsible for that small thing. So when we're in the middle of what it is that we're doing, what we get to do is we get to say, how do I respond to the feeling that I'm feeling right now? How do I respond to my loss of the things that I miss so much? And my question is this: what is it that you have, that you've done, that you can still do? Because we can't do everything, but we can do that much. We can do that much. So going back to what got me here was, I love moving around and teaching. I don't know if you remember that in my class. I love moving around and teaching. I love touching people. I love getting in their face. And I can't do any of those things. But what can I do? I can get up and move around. And if I get up and move around, then I'm like, I remember this guy. I remember this guy. Right?
Yeah. So like, what's the touchstone that will bring you back to who you are?
What's a touchstone? Because it doesn't have to be the touchstone.
Right.
What's a touchstone?
Yeah.
And a touchstone can be something like, because I've traveled so much, I've got 1 million miles on American Airlines, literally frequent flyer miles. What is the touchstone that makes me go, I miss traveling? Okay. So in my mind, I'll take a moment. I'll go, somewhere right now on a street called Ponsonby in Auckland, New Zealand, there is a restaurant that I love. It's still there. All right. It's still there. And that warms my heart. It's not this. It's not, it's still there. I'm not there. Where am I? I'm at home. I'm not making any money. What's going to happen to me? My children are going to die. Well, first of all, I have to have children. But it's that, be aware that you're going down a rabbit hole. And if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go down a rabbit hole. But please know this. Please know that you're going down a rabbit hole. And to know that it's not chronic. It's something that you decided to do. All decisions, every step that you take in your mental journey, as long as you know you don't have some kind of chemical imbalance, all the choices that you have in your mental journey are choices that you make. The problem is you're not conscious that you're making those choices. You're not conscious that you're going down that rabbit hole. I get to go down a rabbit hole. I get to grieve. I get to be sad. I get to cry. I get to laugh. I get to do all those things. And what I also get to do is I get to be aware of doing that. The
So
problem is, I'm sorry, one more second. Let me just put it.
Yeah.
The problem is when we're not aware that we're doing that. I'm sorry, and go.
Exactly. No, that is exactly where I was headed with my question is, okay, how can we bring ourselves into that awareness rather than live in this numb kind of cut off world?
Lovely. I taught for Steppenwolf Theater Company, the great theater company in Chicago, where John Malkovich came and Laurie Metcalf and all those people. I taught for them at the California Summer Arts Festival in Fresno. I was going to do it this year, but of course we had to cancel it. And shit gets heavy. It's getting heavy. Like there are teachers that are this woman Kim Rubenstein, this woman Alexandra Billings, great teachers, and people are. One of the things about it is people are shattered. We shatter people. We shatter people in order to lose the facade that you have, to get to the vulnerability, to get to the meat. This whole thing that's happening right now is a shattering. It's a shattering of who it is that we are. It's a shattering of who it is that we think we are. It's a shattering of who it is that we wanted to be. It's a shattering of that. So what remains? What is it that remains here? What remains here is, I love this room. I love what I'm doing. I love who it is that I am. And I am aware that I have those things. So the reason I brought up Steppenwolf was there was one guy, and it was late at night, and we were 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And it's it's boot camp. It's really boot camp. And one guy in particular was in a scene with somebody. It was basically an improvisation that Alexander Billings was leading. And this guy just shattered. I mean, tears coming down. And they took him out of the room and they put him somewhere. And later on, I said, took him out of the room and Alex talked to him and he came back and he was fine. And I said, what did you do? What did you do? And she said, this is what I did. I asked him his name. I showed him my watch. I asked him what time it was. I asked him what shirt I was wearing. I asked him what month it was. I asked him what day it was. And all of those things took him out of his brain and put him in this space. It's a matter of taking facts, grounding ourselves with the facts, being aware of those things and not putting any kind of anxiety, connecting any kind of anxiety. So the question is, how do we connect? We connect by being real in this universe and realizing when we're no longer mentally here.
Okay.
Does that make? I don't know that I answered your question.
Well, I think then if I'd like to think that my audience is self-aware enough to know when they've decided to numb out.
Wait. I don't know that that's true.
Oh, it might not be true.
I don't know that that's true. I don't know that people know that. And I notice it when I'm teaching improvisation. We're teaching a class. And my workshops aren't about let's learn how to be funny. My workshops are about how do we emotionally connect to what's going on? What is it that my partner is offering me in that moment? And I watch people go down that rabbit hole, and I don't know that they know that they're doing that. I don't know that they have what's called a kinesthetic response. A kinesthetic response is someone says your name, you turn. You smell chocolate, you want chocolate. You smell chocolate chip cookies, you want chocolate chip cookies. You go to a restaurant and you're not hungry, and suddenly on the menu you see bacon flavored bacon, and you're like, I want to have that. But they're not aware that something within them kind of goes bing, king. They're not aware of that, and they're passing it by. And what I mean by that is, I don't think the majority of human beings on this planet are aware of what they're emotionally going through, and to know that they have the choice to not go through that.
Oh, so let us now give them permission.
Let us now, first off, have them recognize that it's a choice. and let us now give them permission to make the choice that they're going to make. And let us now know that whatever choice that they're making, they're consciously making that choice. There's a book called Search Inside Yourself by a guy named Chang Mead Tan. And he designed the mindfulness program at Google. That's why it's such a dumb name of a book. And in
That's
it,
very SEO.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Before that was a thing. So in this book, he talks about something called, I've subverted it into an improv thing, but he calls it the sacred breath. And the sacred breath is this. He doesn't give this example, but this is the example that I do. You're driving in your car and you're driving down the street and everything's fine and you're listening to the song that you like. And then suddenly, and then you're cut off. Someone cuts you off. And later on, when you tell the story, you say, someone cut me off and I immediately flipped them off. That's not how that works. You're driving, someone cut you off. Then there's a moment where you say, I've been cut off. How am I going to respond? I am going to respond by flipping this person off. That period is a sacred pause. Something happens, your breath is changed, but you have to know that your breath is changed. And the moment that you know that your breath has changed, be mindful that your breath has changed and say, am I going to have a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on, which takes us down a path that we've been down a million times? Or am I going to be mindful in this moment that this is what happened? That happened. And how you deal with it is going to be how you're going to be dealing with the next 45 seconds to a minute of your life. What do you want to do with that 45 seconds to a minute of your life? Do you want to say, I'm fine, I have a car? Or do you want to say, boy, what was that person thinking? I bet, they're driving a Range Rover. And everybody who drives a Range Rover is just an ass. And I can't believe those. And how dare they? The privilege that they have. Black Lives Matter. It's like, what? What just happened? What just happened? And I agree with Black Lives Matter. But I'm also saying, you have the choice of saying, hey, I'm safe, I'm fine. Yeah. Oh, that music that's on, I get to listen to the Grateful Dead, You Are the Eyes of the World. I get to listen to the rest of that song,
Yeah.
Which is always a good choice to make. But does that make sense? So, we do it. I am aware of, I've become, and I'm sorry to keep talking all the time. That's why.
That's what it's about. It's okay.
I am aware of everything. Like when I'm with you, I am watching everything that you're doing to see how we're connecting in that manner. A moment ago, you're distracted by something.
Yes.
Right. And that's okay. But I want you to know, I noticed that you were distracted by that, but I chose not to engage in that distraction because I had something else that I wanted to get across. And that's not to say that you're rude. That's to say that you were dealing with your life in that moment. And I didn't take it personally.
Well, and I appreciate that very much about you.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? You understand that that's a choice that I made. Yeah. And so I'm not just stating that, I'm living that. And am I perfect in that? Nope. But when I'm not, this is what I get to do. I get to laugh at myself. And going back to the TED Talk, there's a great example in the TED Talk of me just doing this humiliating thing in front of 1,200 people and saying, okay, what am I going to do with the rest? What am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that for the rest of my life? And it's so interesting because in that moment that thing happened, of course, no spoilers. In the moment that thing happened, I think it was my improv training that said, you could deal with this way, or you could deal with this way.
Uh-huh.
And in an improv scene, when somebody has an epiphany, a revelation, a transformation, or a turn, your partner has that. You get a choice in that moment to say, what do I want to do with the rest of this scene? How do I want to deal with the rest of this scene? And we get to do that with our lives.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? This event happened. I lost my job. Because of in the culture that we're living in, the society that we're living in, the government living in, the world that we're living in right now, just in the United States, money is an important factor. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're so connected to, if we're so attached to, money is the way that I gauge my worth. And I understand that. I also understand that. For me, for my girlfriend Laura and I, my girlfriend Laura and me, we live in this really great place, and we have a nest egg, a little, some money, and we're going to be fine. We don't have kids. I don't have, I own my car outright, and I don't have an extravagant lifestyle. There are a lot of people that are going through a traumatic experience now because, and I think people need to think about this. How much of this has to do with money, and how much of this has to do with self-worth? How much of what is your anxiety? What's the flavor of your anxiety? What's the recipe that is creating that particular anxiety? Is it financial? Because that's one thing, and I get it, and that's a math problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a self-worth challenge? Is it something that you're going, I don't know who it is that I am? I don't know who it is that I am part of because I'm not doing what I'm doing? Or is it, I don't know who it is that I am because I don't have any money and I'm worried about money?
That's a tough one. A couple things popped into my head. Three things. Number one, everyone, I will link the TEDx talk in the show notes, because the moment he's talking about is pure gold. And hopefully, I really hope it's something we've all been through, because we've all had those. I really hope we've all had those moments, because then that means we're trying hard enough. Then the second thing is dealing with, as leaders in whatever we're doing, we are that big picture, and how do we comfortably or uncomfortably just fucking do it, get down to that tiny bit that we actually are responsible for versus the whole arc of human existence, which I think a lot of us feel like we are responsible for. And then there was something else around, like, just who am I now? Who am I now? Like, how can I arrive there?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have the benefit of a really great therapist or coach.
Right.
Oh,
you have the first question. The first part wasn't a question; it was a statement. Yes. The second part was, how do we? If I want to get this right. How do we discover what that tiny bit was?
Right. Yes. And how can I get comfortable with that?
Okay. Okay. Good. So number 2 and number 3 are connected.
Yes.
Okay. The only source of suffering is non-acceptance. That's it. What is it that you're not accepting? And if you look at what is it that you're not accepting, and to know that you're going to eventually accept what it is that's happening. And it's a process, and you can't rush it, because if you rush it, you're not fully accepting it. And the journey that you're on will take you to where it is that you need to be. And it's important, and I don't want to get too woo-woo, because I think I'm already kind of woo-woo, but while you're on that path of acceptance, you've got to look at where it is that you are and what is it that you have, without, and this is the trouble, this is the challenge. You have to look at where you are and what you have without metastasizing it. And what I mean by that is, what do you have? Do you have, well, first off, have you lost anything that brought you to where you are? Have you lost any of the research that you've done? Have you lost, and of course you haven't. Have you lost any of the experiences you have? Of course you haven't. Have you lost any of the wisdom that brought you to where you are? Of course you haven't. Do you have people around you that still are looking at you and saying, this person has value? Because what ends up happening is we're in this little rectangle, and we're not having connections that we've had before, where somebody went, hey, Karen, you're doing well. Donna, what a great job. Loved it. So what we have to do is we have to remind ourselves of those wonderful things that we've done in our lives, and what has taken us here, right? And what has rather gotten helped us arrive at where it is that we are. Mm-hmm. You haven't lost any of your wisdom, and you haven't lost any of the philosophy. What we have to do is we have to make sure that we're still connecting to people on a heart-to-heart level. We have to reach out to people. We've got to do these Zoom meetings with somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time that you really love and you really think about that person. You have to keep, I'm a news junkie. And if people just met me right now, they're like, oh, man, he's really open, he's really nice, he's really kind. But if you looked at my Twitter feed or my Facebook feed, you would go, this person is a maniac and cannot be around my family. But at the same time, I still have that connection to people. I'm reading books. I'm reading nonfiction books. I'm not watching The Handmaid's Tale. I'm not watching these things that grab me and make me, I'm still getting love out of what's going on. And again, you haven't lost your soul. You've just lost your distraction. Right?
Yeah.
You haven't lost your wisdom. You've just lost people around you who are taking in your wisdom. And if you need that, if you need those people, it's a Zoom away. And if you need to do this, there's nothing wrong with doing this. If you're proud of who you are, and if you're proud of what you've done, and if you love what it is that you've done, do yourself a favor. And I'm not kidding. Look at your resume. Take a look at what you've done. Take a look at your journey. Take a trip down your CV and see all the people that have ever helped you. Because that's really what it's about. And those people are still there, whether they're physically there, whether they're still breathing. They're still here. They're still here. And we go to despair when we're alone. And anybody who's ever done an improv scene, the beginning of when you're a beginning improviser, you think, oh, what I have to do is I have to add more stuff that's external in order to make the scene work. And as you keep going on, you go, no. The answers are all in my partner. And the way she's standing there and the look at her face and the gestures that she has and our spatial relationship. And the shape that she's standing in, like everything I need is right there. And this is all about, looking at, this is such a weird sentence, looking at lack as the source of abundance. Does that make sense?
Can we explore that?
Yes. Looking at the things that have been removed from your life and realizing because of that, all the things that you actually have.
This extended pause is on purpose.
And I'm crying.
I am too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I yeah.
And we're done.
Great.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I think probably Dave and I are picturing some mutual friends who are no longer here.
For sure.
And looking at what has been removed from our lives as an opportunity to focus on what we actually have.
And to realize also that those people that have been removed from our lives haven't been removed from our lives. They're just not here right now.
Right.
And I'm not a religious person. I'm not anybody that believes in heaven. It just doesn't jive with my improv philosophy. But there's a book called it's a fiction book called A Brief History of the Dead. And it's a really interesting book. It's a really interesting novel. And the concept is this, that we live on a plane. There are 3 planes. The one plane that we live on is we're having this discussion, you and I right now. Should one of us die, we go to another plane where we're still leading our lives, but everybody up there is dead. And as long as somebody on the first plane remembers us, we're still living our lives. And that is where, my grandfather lives, and that is where Martin Dumont lives, and that is where Michael McCarthy lives, and I don't know if anybody knows these people. That's where Gary Austin lives. That's where all these people live. And I don't think, oh my God, they're dead. My first thought is, oh yeah, I learned that from Gary, or I learned that from Martin, or I learned that from anybody.
Yeah.
So they're still alive with us. They're still here. And then if you want to go down the rabbit hole, oh my God, they're gone, and go down that rabbit hole. But
Right.
again, know that you're going down that rabbit hole. Be mindful of every choice that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And every choice that you make is, I'm going to take out my handkerchief and I'm going to blow my nose right now. The choice is, when I leave here, I've got a couple phone calls to make. But right now, I'm not in that other room. I'm here talking to you. And if I want to think about what I'm going to do, it's going to remove me from the relationship that I have right now, because I'm going to now have a relationship with my brain, which isn't who it is that I'm having this physical relationship, physical, visual relationship with.
Yes.
I'm going to drink my coffee.
I'm going to wipe my eyes now.
That's exactly it. And so going back to that one, so when I was, going back to Alex and Alexander Billings, and Alex talking to that student, the next day I was teaching a workshop, and there was a guy named Doc, and they called him Doc because he was a medic in Iraq, and he was a really tall, huge man, and he shattered right in front of me. And he broke down, and everybody wanted to, and this is something that happens, everybody wanted to come up to him and hug him. And I've learned this: no one touch him. Don't touch him. Don't hug him. Don't offer him Kleenex. Let him feel the feelings he's feeling the moment that he's feeling that. And you come in and you touch him, and it's a short circuit of his emotional connection in that moment. We get to feel those feelings without regret, and we get to live in that emotion until it goes away.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. I'm like regrouping.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's give people some tools for if and when they shatter at home in isolation. I love what you said about not hugging them. That kind of reminds me of Isabel Hunt is an empath, I know, and she is very much like in that 5D kind of realm, that woo-woo realm. And she told me about her how she relates to her child, that when kids are having a meltdown, the last thing we should do is hug them and tell them there's nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. That her question to her child in that moment is always, what do you need?
Right.
What do you need?
Right.
And that's what you just told me reminded me of is that it's not that it's not that nothing's wrong. It's not that everything's going to be fine, because these aren't necessarily true. We don't know that.
Right.
Just like you said, we don't know that everyone is that my listeners are self-aware.
Right. They aren't. And I know this, they're not self-aware 100% of the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things that woman, what's her name?
Isabel Hunt.
That Ms. Hunt, that is such an interesting, that's such a great response. What do you need? And I think to answer like a tool, one of the tools is, I want to add something to that because I love what she said. And it's this: what do you need right now? And then I want to add this: what do you need right now that I can get you right now? Because what do you need right now? I need to know that I'm going to, it's like, no, I don't have that information. What do you need right now? I need a job. No, I can't help you with that information. All right. I can help you with something else. What do you need right now? And it could be this. I need a cookie. I can do that. What do you need right now? I need to be reminded that I have value. I can do that. What do you need right now? And I think that if anybody listening to this can just put this on pause for a moment and ask themselves, what do I need right now? There's going to be an answer. And it's also, it's a learned, just like, the improv that I teach, it's you're not going to get it right away. And it needs to be finessed. That answer, that question, what do I need right now, needs to be finessed. And you need to be realistic with what you need right now. And to know that, are you living in the past, the present, or the future when you make that question, when you ask that question? And it's like in a good improv scene. Do I want you to talk about the past, the present, or the future? I need for you to deal with the present because I'm in the present with you. What do you need right now? I need to change my job in the past so that I take a job that has worth during this quarantine. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. Like realistically, what can you get right now?
Yeah.
And it might be, I need to step away from this conversation. Great. That's what you need? Then let's do that. And whoever is in reception to that, assuming that you aren't in quarantine by yourself, accept it. Accept it. If they say, I need to step away right now, let them step away right now. Let the people around you grieve. Let the people around you help you. Let the people around you ignore you. Let the people around you be people that are around you. And to realize that you're in charge, again, assuming that it's not a chemical imbalance, you're in charge of the decisions that you make that cause your next step. You're in charge of that. Mm-hmm. So it's all about, again, going back to my improv mantra, which is feel the feelings you're feeling the moment you feel those feelings. Just feel those feelings. And don't put one in the box that's negative. This is the box of negative feelings, and this is the box of positive feelings. And forget your troubles. Come on, get happy. That's got to be one of the saddest songs I've ever heard. Next to "You Are My Sunshine," which is such a rapey song. But forget your troubles. Come on, get happy. It's like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture that says you got to be happy. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. And be mindful of the way that you say things to you. Be mindful of the way that you talk to you. Because if you said to me, I'm the kind of person who holds on to their anger. And if you say that to you, now if I said that to you, you're the kind of person who holds on to your anger. You would. Right. Well, then how dare you talk to you that way? How dare you talk to you that way? So that's another tool. How are you talking to you? And if you are not, and the old improv saw is the most important person on stage is your partner. I don't believe that. I believe the most important person on stage is you. What are you emotionally getting from what was just said? Right? And if you, so the question is this: how do you forgive? You need to be your own best friend. And if you're not your own best friend, how do you forgive yourself so that you can become your own best friend? How can you put aside all of that which you felt about yourself in order for you to reach a point where you say, I am in this world by myself with a bunch of other people, and I have to wake up in the morning and be happy with me? No, let me change that. I have to wake up in the morning and be satisfied with what I'm doing and where I am. That's not to say that you don't have dreams and goals. You get to have that. But regret is just a waste of time. And here's another one that's very controversial. Hope is a waste of time.
Ooh.
Hope is an awful waste of time. And
Big time.
I'm going to be not safe for work. And that's
Yeah.
this. Fuck hope. It's a victim's emotion. Faith is wonderful. Trust is great. Hope is you standing on a corner thinking, I really hope a safe doesn't fall on my head. And
That's
whenever
like
I hear, it's trying. It's the same thing as trying. It's a non-action.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weasel word where you think you're saying something. And a lot of people bristle when I say, fuck hope. You know, I hope I don't get cancer. Like, Jesus, what?
Yeah.
I have faith. I trust that I won't get cancer. I hope. And be careful again of the way that you're talking to yourself. What's another? But I hope I don't get cancer. Because the universe is the universe hears this as I get cancer.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get cancer. The universe says, here's I get cancer. Instead of this, I am going to be healthy. I am healthy. I am healthy. And even if I have a broken leg, I am healthy. And even if I have chronic pain, I am healthy. You are not what you have. It's interesting the way that in a romance language, the romance languages say, you don't, as far as I know, you don't say, it's not translated as I am angry.
Right.
I believe it's translated as I have anger.
Yes.
I am not my emotion. I just have that emotion. And what I love about that is it implies that you're not going to, that you just have it for now, but that will change. This too will change. This too will change. This too will pass. Mm-hmm. And to realize that what you're experiencing right now, this will pass. And also to realize whatever it is that I'm engaging in mentally right now, this too will pass. Which also means whatever I'm engaging in right now, this is what I'm engaging in right now, and I get to own it, and I get to have it, I get to live in it.
Mm-hmm. That what you said about faith and trust goes right to the heart of knowing what you need to know when you need to know what you need to know. Right,
and I think that that's an important thing. And just to expand on that, in improvisation, the desire is to a lot of new improvisers will I'll be in a scene with them and we're dealing with one thing at a time, one emotional concept at a time, one emotional volley at a time. And then I'll say, oh, something happened and you were emotionally changed. And they'll say, yes, I was. And then the student will say, well, now what? And I'm like, well, now we deal with that. But what's going to happen at the end of the scene? It's like, I don't know. You're going to know what you need to know when you need to know what you need to know. And because there's never been a situation where you go, and I swear to God, Donna, he said that to me and I didn't know what to do. And then I disappeared. Like, that's not how it works.
No.
You're going to know what you need to know when you need to know. So it's really about, like, in that moment, be in the process of living your life. Because the product, and this is the TED Talk, the product of your life is the process of your life. Mm-hmm. The product of your life isn't at the end of your life. That's just that's just a fact. Where you are at the end of your life is a number. Mm-hmm. But that number doesn't matter. Because nobody ever says 2 and 2 is 4. Isn't that sad? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just a fucking number. Like, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? You know, it's just a number. So again, go back to your CV. What have you done? And and it's not about counting how many jobs you've had. It's about you looking at that. And when we do that, make sure that you don't go down the rabbit hole of saying, yeah, I ended that job because Christina said that thing to me. And suddenly and then it was Hannah. Because when I think about my career at Second City, which was very long, I was there for 21 years. And I
Mm.
consider and I went from the training center to the touring company to three resident companies to directing 2 resident companies to becoming the artistic director of Second City. And it's like at each one of those, at the end of each one of the junctures, there was me losing that job.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think about losing the job. I think about, oh yeah, I was on the road with these fantastic people, touring company. Oh yeah, we created that really dumb scene, or we created that horrible scene that we worked on so long and never made it into the show, or that Gene Hackman came to the show, or Rita Moreno came to the show, or how about this one, which is really a good one. 2 of my dear friends are now A-list actors. Everybody I teach in China, and everybody through Zoom, everybody in China knows who Steve Carell is.
Mm.
They may not know who Stephen Colbert is, but those 2 are my friends. And to look at them right now and not to say, how come I don't have a contract with CBS? It's like, oh, geez. Or where's my Academy Award nomination? It's like, no, there's your friend.
Mm-hmm.
My friend is enjoying their life. They're enjoying their life. What you decide, what you spend your time on is your choice. What you spend your mental time on is your choice. Who you spend time with is your choice. Now that we're sequestered, who we spend time with is us.
Mm.
Now that may not be our choice, but our choice is, what are we doing with that time? How are we emotionally spending that time?
And that we get to choose.
We get to choose. And the important thing there is, it's not that we have to choose, it's that we get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference.
Yeah. Something kind of magical about this time too is that we also get to not be around the people who drain us.
Absolutely.
How
Are you
awesome is
familiar?
that?
That's really awesome. Are you familiar with Jill Bolte Taylor? She had that TED talk called A Stroke of, she had this TED talk, and it's one of the most popular TED talks. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And here's the thing. It's sort of like talking to somebody who has never seen The Godfather, and you go, some people go, I can't believe you've never seen The Godfather. But I'm going to say this, but this is what I say. It's like, oh my God, you get to see The Godfather.
Yeah.
Jill Bolte Taylor is Jill Bolte, Bolte -Taylor, Taylor. And there's also, she wrote this book that's a phenomenal book. It's called My Stroke of Insight.
Mm.
And it's really a good book to think about right now, just based upon what it is that you said. So in this book, Jill Bolte Taylor, Jill Bolte Taylor is a neuroanatomist at Harvard.
Mm.
Right? She's a pretty smart person.
Yeah.
She's a neuroanatomist at Harvard. She wakes up one morning and she has this screaming headache. And she's like, I'm just going to get on the treadmill and see what the hell happens on the treadmill. She gets on the treadmill and she realizes, and I want to step back just so I can see what my graphic is right. She realizes that she doesn't know where her arms end and where the treadmill starts. She can't figure it out. And there are lights coming at her and she's like, I don't know what I'm doing with these lights. Oh my gosh. And then she decides, I got to take a shower. She gets in the shower and the water pressure is just, it's painful. And at that moment, she realizes she's having a stroke. Which means half of her brain is being drowned in blood in her skull. And she makes some phone calls and I'm cutting to the chase. And what happened was it erased her personality.
Oof. Wow.
And her mother took care of her. And her mother became aware of the people that entered her hospital room, that Jill had a kinesthetic response of, this person is not good for me. And what her mother decided to do was not allow those people into the room. And as Jill got her personality back, she realized, I'm in charge of who it is that I surround myself with. I'm in charge of the toxic people that are in my life. And I had until a couple of weeks ago, I've topped out of friends on Facebook. And then I started reading what people are saying, and I'm sure that people unfriend me because I am so very verbal and I do drop F-bombs all over that. Right now I have 4,890 friends. So I lost 110 friends, but I've also gotten rid of a lot of those people because it's like, I don't like what you're saying. And when I see your name, my stomach hurts. And when I think about you, my stomach hurts. And here's the thing, I don't have to be with you. I don't have to look at you. I don't have to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like a book that you feel that you have to finish, that you can't.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a member of a book club called Fuck That Book. And it's the Fuck That Book Club. And this is the book club. You know that book that you have on your nightstand that you can't finish? Fuck that book. You know that book that you have on your bookshelf that an ex-friend gave you, but you're still looking at it? Fuck that book. You know that book that you have that you read that you kind of forced yourself to read, but you finished it? Fuck that book. Get rid of those books. And then you get to do this. Then you get to be a member of this club. The Fuck That Shirt Club. You know that shirt that you have hanging in your closet that you'll never use? Fuck that shirt. Fuck those pants. And then you get to this, and I don't mean this in a sexual way. Fuck that friend. I'm never going to wear them again. I'm never going to read them again.
I'm never going to finish that friend.
I'm never going to finish that friend. No, I'm never going to finish that friend. And I don't mean that in a good way. It's not like, oh, I'm not, I hope I never finish you. It's like, no, I am actually finishing you, but I'm finishing you way before you thought that you were done. I don't like the smell of what I'm baking, and it's not going to turn out well. So we're just turning the oven off and just
fuck that meal.
I love that meal. But we have the choice. But that's exactly it. We have the choice of what it is that we're deciding to spend our time with, whether it's physically spend your time with or mentally spend your time with. And the important thing is to be aware of being aware. To be conscious of being conscious. It's one thing to be conscious, like, I know that you and I are doing this, but I'm also aware of what I'm saying, how I'm responding to you, what you're offering me. I'm not living my life unconsciously. Mm-hmm. I am as often as conscious as I can consciously be. Mm-hmm. And I know that's kind of a Razowsky thing, because there's a repetition of words, but it's a repetition of words just because repetition is not redundancy, and also it helps us ground us.
Grounding right now seems to be really important, because I'll just speak for myself, what I'm feeling is untethered a lot of the time. I've been working a lot on grounding as we go through this pandemic, because I realize I have become untethered from the earth. Help us get grounded.
Okay. Let's go back to Alexandra Billings' connection with that shattered person, because that shattered person was essentially no longer grounded. And what was it that Alex did in order to get that person grounded? What she did was she went, what do we have? Because right now, you think it's grounded is such an interesting phrase, because it says we want to have our feet on the ground. But then there's another phrase. It's like your head in the sky. If your head is in the sky, you're not grounded to the earth. When we're grounded to the earth, what that means is it's physical and it's real, and it's a matter of knowing when you're and I lit upon this a little earlier. It's knowing when you are engaged in, it's acknowledging, it's being present to when you're engaged in something that isn't real. Your thoughts are not real. You're creating fiction in your mind. Okay. So the way that I ground myself is this. Very often, I'll remind myself of things, and I'll go, I'm standing here right now. I'm just standing here. I'm sitting here. I'm standing here. I'm standing here. I'm looking at you. I am standing here. I'm looking at you. And here's what we do. I'm standing here. I'm looking at you. I'm breathing. I just took a breath. And it becomes really woo-woo. A dog. I love dogs. I'm hoping that's a dog and not your child.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, I'm breathing. I'm aware of my breath. I'm aware of myself standing here. Let's take a moment. What was I thinking a moment ago? Right. I was thinking about my finances. Okay, cool. That's fine. That's fine. I've grounded myself. Deal with yourself with humor and compassion. right? And realize that what human nature does this. I'll be I'll be walking outside, which has its own problems. But let's just say that I'll be sitting in my favorite chair, which I have a favorite chair. I'll be sitting in my favorite chair, and I'll be doing Scrabble, which I love, with friends that I really love. It's Scrabble, and I'll sit there going, "This is great. This is really good." Acknowledge the fact that you are enjoying the moment that you're having. Sit in it. But this is what people end up doing. God, I'm really enjoying this. It's really beautiful outside. I have a cup of coffee. I'm doing Scrabble. I really love it. This is wonderful. I'm having this is it. This is it. What was I worried about yesterday? Yeah, right. Why the hell did she say that to me? Oh my God, I cannot believe that she said that to me, right? So what we end up doing is we end up pulling yesterday into today. Or we end up pulling tomorrow into today. Today is what grounds us. Right now, the feeling that you have grounds you. And again, be mindful of when you go down that rabbit hole, or be mindful of when you have your head in the clouds. And you get to have that as long as you know that you're doing that.
Awesome. Yes. Oh, Dave, I want to be mindful of your time. I could sit and talk to you like all fucking day, but you've got things to do. Tell us about your book.
Okay. The book is tentatively called A Subversive's Guide to Improvisation. And as I'm reading, I'm going, I don't know how subversive it is. But I'm calling it subversive because the way that I teach improvisation is very different than the way that other people teach improv. So it's separated in a bunch of different sections. One is a memoir, how I got to where it is that I am. Then it's my philosophy about life. Then it's my methodology, how I teach things. And then it's followed by exercises at the end and a transcription of my TED Talk. I allowed myself to write this book because I felt like I want to share my journey with people, but this is really important thing. I want to be able to play with people that understand what it is that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do that, then I have to keep teaching people over and over and over again what it is that I'm doing. And I think there are a lot of people that really love the way that I'm teaching, and I appreciate that. And that's not for me to go, aren't they great? But it's like, I think it's great. But it's a way of saying, this is really it. It's like, forget the rules. Forget the rules that say you have to say yes. Forget the rules that say you can't talk about people who aren't there. Forget the rules that say start a scene with exposition, like who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Instead of just starting a scene emotionally, to look at your partner and to take in what it is that you're perceiving them to be feeling in that moment. And if we start any relationship with the connection of the emotional connection that we have in that moment, we're going to cut right to the chase. And we're going to cut right to the chase of the heart. And I'm always looking for, I'm always looking in a scene, how do we get to the intersection of you and me? We might start out by talking about bacon, but at some point, this is going to be about you and me. And it's not necessarily just about a scene. It's about life. Mm-hmm. And you know that any relationship that you have, certainly in the business world, so there's something called the MacGuffin. And the MacGuffin is a Hitchcock phrase. And Hitchcock used it in most of his movies it's a device that he uses in order to get the two main characters together. So at the beginning of Psycho, Janet Leigh's character steals money from wherever that she's going. She puts it in the trunk of her, she puts it in a money bag, she puts it in the trunk of her car, and she heads off to the Bates Motel where she meets Norman Bates. The movie is no longer about the money. The movie is now her interaction with Norman Bates, right? So any business person who's connecting with somebody has to realize that the reason that they're together is the MacGuffin. And what ends up happening is a relationship that we have, a business relationship, is going to start as a business relationship. And what you're hoping is it turns into a relationship. And I don't mean that in necessarily a physical way. I mean, it turns into something like, I know that you are coming to me for a loan. But how's the dog? How's the dog? What's going on with the dog? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's not what's going on with the dog. Let's get past this. It's now we're talking about the dog. And I love a dog. Oh my God, I just love dogs. And cats. And then we're going to get to the money. Mm-hmm. But really, if I sense that you are all about the money, we're not going to have a very good relationship, and it's going to be really, really short. We're not going to have a relationship. So the book is really about surrendering the MacGuffin and getting to the connection. Surrender the thing that gets to the thing. Yeah. And I'm really excited to get it out. But, and one of the things that has, people say, when's it going to be done? And you know what? We'll know what we need to know, and we need to know what we need to know.
I love that. Surrender the MacGuffin. That would make a great T-shirt.
Yeah.
Great campaign slogan.
And another slogan that I have that I really like is, and I think this is, we are the Santas of Now Town. And what that means is we have to realize that we're always giving gifts to each other all the time. And the gifts can be a physical gift, or the gift could be an emotional gift of, oh, I forgot to tell you. Like I wake up every morning and get very emotional about this too. I wake up every morning and I roll over and there's my best friend, my girlfriend. And every day I wake up and I say, and it's not forced. It's like, I cannot believe how much you've helped me live this life. And that's a gift. And her gift back to me is this: thank you. That's it. It doesn't have to be anything like, and you too. It's like, I just need to be heard. And sometimes that's it. But we are the Santas of Now Town. And we've got to realize that we also have to give ourselves the gifts.
Yeah.
So there. Get yourself, needlepoint that as well on the pillow of life.
After fuck this craft project, I'm never going to
right. Exactly. Fuck hope and fuck this craft project. I'm never going to finish that. I don't like it. And here's another, I do collages. I used to do collages with X-Acto knives, and they're really, really great. And then I took up collaging on my iPad with an iPencil. And sometimes I get to a certain point in the collage and I go, that's about all that I have. I don't need to show this to anybody. Just the process of me doing it was enough. Just the process of me doing that was enough. And whatever it is that I perceive it needs to be, it is, and I get to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Well, how can people find you?
I offer Zoom coaching. I'm doing improv coaching one-to-one. I'm doing improv coaching with duos. But what I've also been doing is, if people want to spend some time chatting with the way that we were chatting too, this is it. It's not a life coach thing. It's just like if they need an ear, I'm there. They can find me online at, they can go to davidrazowsky.com. There's some really cool content there. Or they can, what's the best way to get me? I'm on Instagram, D Razowsky. You can see a lot of food pictures. And I'm on Facebook. And again, keep in mind, my Facebook is very political. And people really want to be my friend. And they're like, oh my God, he says fuck too many times. I can't see that all the time. But I'm topped off, but I will always connect to people anyway. drazowsky@me.com. But you can also connect with me through through my website.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And that's our show for this week. Big thanks again to David Razowsky. Also, you may have noticed we have new theme music, and that is thanks to Kendall Caldwell. If you'd like to contact me, please email me, becky@virtualexecutivedirector.com, or you can find all of our social links in the show notes. And if you got something out of this episode, please share it with a friend and leave a review, because that helps other people find it. Remember, we shine brighter when we shine together.